Hi, this is Kathleen Gardner, and this is my tale of two states, Illinois and Maryland. I chose those two states because I am a product of the higher education system of Maryland. I did both my bachelor's and my master's degree at the University of Maryland, and then I most recently moved from the state of Illinois, and part of that decision was because of what the state was doing as far as financing higher education. And so when you look at the Illinois and Maryland spending, it can be a little deceptive because when you do the comparison between 2009 and 2014, it looks like Illinois had an increase of spending per student of almost 50%, while Maryland had a decrease in spending of almost 5%. However, that increase was due in the past year due to Illinois putting money into financing the higher education pension system, which had gone unfunded for a number of years. And so when you look at it, you can slowly see Illinois funding increasing between 2013 and 2015. And again, looking at the change in funding since the recession. However, when you look at it between like 1978 and 2014, this is a little more accurate because this is before the state went in and bailed out the retirement system. So you can see in 2014, only 3% of the state budget was going toward funding higher education. And so when you look between the two states, Illinois now is one of the most expensive in-state tuitions within the country. You'll see that they are fifth from the right, while Maryland is doing pretty well, and they're in the middle of the pack and below the average for the United States. And so when you do a side-by-side comparison of the flagship institutions, so the University of Maryland College Park and then the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, with Maryland approximately, and again, this was in 2015, so a couple of years ago, but 24% of the budget came from state appropriations, while in Illinois, only 9% of the budget came from state revenues. Both states have an affordability program to help give access to students from lower socioeconomic status. In Illinois, it's the MAP program or the Monetary Award Program. And in Maryland, it's the Howard P. Rawlings Guaranteed Access Grant or the GA grant. The hard thing about this is Illinois went without a budget for a number of years, and so semester to semester, students didn't know if that MAP funding would be there to help pay their tuition, because unfortunately those in the state government were using the MAP program as leverage as they were trying to come to an agreement so that the state would have a budget. Illinois has a really well-designed outcomes-based funding model. I was serving on the University Budget and Finance Committee when that model was put into place. It's recognized as an example by the Lumina Foundation. However, there is no funding in the budget to reward state institutions that are doing well with that outcomes-based funding model. So although it's in place, it has not been used. Maryland does not have an outcomes-based funding model, and there's actually a lot in the news about some of the arguments within the state against utilizing such a model. Obviously, there are challenges to funding higher education across the country, but there are some unique challenges for both of these states. I mentioned before the state retirement system for Illinois has an estimated unfounded liability of $23.7 billion. The state went without a budget for a number of years. They finally got a budget this past year. So there were times when I was working at the state of Illinois, we knew that the university would be okay meeting payroll for the next month, but maybe 3 months after that, there was a question on whether or not the university could make payroll unless more dollars were released from the state because there was no budget. And again, Illinois' average public university in-state tuition rate is one of the highest in the nation. It's the 5th highest. And there's been a significant loss to MAP funding. That's making it pretty difficult for students from lower socioeconomic status to access higher education within the state. Maryland is doing pretty well financially. They still have increasing numbers of students going to college, and as a state, they've done pretty well since the recession. One of their unique challenges that they're dealing with is that there has been a lack of investment in the historically Black colleges and universities, and there's some litigation going on right now to help resolve that. And so that is my tale of two states between Illinois and Maryland.